I overheard my husband and mother-in-law talking about giving one of our twins to my infertile sister-in-law as a birthday present. That was it for me. I cut all contact, filed for divorce, and took my kids to a different city where they'd be safe. I'm 30 and my now ex-husband Anthony is 32. We had been together for nearly 6 years, and for a long time, it really felt like love. Anthony and I met when I started my first real job. He'd been there longer and knew the ropes, so he helped me out a lot in those early days. From the get-go, he understood that I didn't come from a stable or loving background. I had to claw my way up, doing whatever small jobs I could find just to save a little money and survive. My parents were addicts, never there for me, never supportive. Once I left for college, I cut ties with them completely. I moved out, stopped answering their calls, and never looked back. They'd reach out now and then when they needed cash, which is why I kept changing my number and even my address over the years. Back when I worked with Anthony, he treated me with real kindness. One time, I wore a shirt to work without realizing it had a couple of tiny holes in it. Anthony noticed before anyone else could and quietly bought me a new shirt so I wouldn't feel embarrassed in front of our coworkers. On rainy or snowy days, he'd drive all the way to pick me up even though I lived more than an hour away, just because he didn't want me walking in bad weather to catch a bus. I used to skip lunch sometimes, not just to save money, but because I grew up never having enough food. That kind of thing sticks with you. Anthony caught on and started bringing me meals, making sure I ate. He'd sit with me during lunch, so I wasn't alone. He really was sweet to me. It didn't take long before I fell for him. But if there was one constant issue in our relationship, it was his family. Anthony came from serious money. I'm talking about a family with multiple luxury cars, a vacation home, and annual summer cruises. He and his sister both went to fancy private schools and never had to worry about bills or tuition. His dad even used to ask him why he bothered working at all, saying their wealth could set him up for life. But Anthony insisted on keeping his job and living a life with purpose. Before I met his folks, Anthony warned me they might come off cold or standoffish at first, but that they'd warm up eventually. So I tried to keep that in mind when I went to meet them. I wore my nicest dress and heels, made sure to be respectful and friendly. His dad greeted me with basic politeness. His mom, on the other hand, didn't even shake my hand. And his sister, Ashley? She looked me over like I was something she'd scrape off her shoe and gave me a smug little smirk. I was mortified, but I reminded myself of what Anthony had said and did my best to ignore it. That whole evening, I put in the effort. I asked about their lives, showed interest in what they enjoyed. I complimented his mom's cooking and said nice things about the artwork his dad had on display. Every time I mentioned the art, though, his mother would roll her eyes and mutter something like, as if someone like you would know anything about art. That really stung. Sure, I grew up poor, but that didn't mean I didn't care about art or didn't know a thing or two. Anthony kept giving my hand a little squeeze under the table, silently asking me to keep my cool. Then, when it was time to sit for dinner, his mom insisted that I shouldn't sit next to Anthony because she and Ashley wanted to be close to him. So I got placed next to his cousin Donald, who, thankfully, was kind and easy to talk to. We had a decent chat while the rest of the table acted like I wasn't even there. Ashley and their mom were practically glued to Anthony, laughing and chatting with him like I didn't exist. Then Ashley, clearly trying to push buttons, brought up one of Anthony's ex-girlfriends, someone she still kept in touch with. She started raving about how great this woman looked lately, even pulled up bikini photos from a recent trip and shoved them in Anthony's face. Anthony told her to knock it off, but Ashley just laughed and joked that he could always slide into the girl's DMs if he missed her, because, apparently, she still had feelings for him. It made my skin crawl. Donald must have noticed, because he finally stepped in and asked Ashley to drop it. But instead of backing down, Anthony's mom got all defensive and snapped at Donald for interfering. I was getting more and more uncomfortable, so when Anthony stood up and asked me to come with him so he could show me his old room, I jumped at the chance to get away from the dinner table. Upstairs, in his childhood bedroom, Anthony apologized. He explained that Ashley had always been like that, controlling, judgmental, and that she used to constantly try setting him up with her friends, insisting he should only marry someone she approved of. He seemed genuinely sorry, so I told him I appreciated the apology and that maybe it was time for us to head out. He agreed. But before we could leave, his dad pulled me aside. His tone was different, warmer, and he admitted that he hadn't been sure about me at first, but after seeing how hard I'd tried, he had changed his mind. He apologized for being distant earlier and told me I was welcome in their home, anytime. He also said not to take Mill or Ashley's attitude personally, and that he was glad Anthony had found someone like me. Hearing that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I had a shot at being accepted. But deep down, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Winning over his mom and sister would take more than good manners and effort. Unfortunately, things never got better. Even as our relationship moved forward, Anthony's mom and sister kept trying to talk him out of being with me. I still remember this one birthday of mine. Anthony and I had planned a sweet little getaway. Just the two of us driving down to the beach for a romantic picnic. I was honestly so excited. I couldn't wait to spend the whole day with him, just relaxing and enjoying each other's company. But then, that morning, his sister called out of nowhere, saying she needed to see him right away. She made it sound like something serious had happened, and Anthony took it at face value. As soon as he told me, I encouraged him to go check on her. We both genuinely thought she was in some kind of trouble. Turns out, it was nothing. No emergency, no crisis. She had just made the whole thing up as some sort of twisted joke. And when Anthony told her he still wanted to come back and spend the day with me since it was my birthday, she actually laughed and admitted she'd called him on purpose, just so he'd have an excuse not to be with me. Anthony was furious. So angry, in fact, that he didn't speak to her for months afterward. After that, things took a darker turn. His sister started blowing up my phone with nasty messages, calling me all sorts of names, and even saying she wanted me dead because she thought I was getting between her and her brother. I didn't keep any of it from Anthony. I showed him every awful message she sent. And every time, it made him even more upset with her. Eventually, around Christmas that same year, Mill stepped in and somehow convinced Anthony to let things go and forgive Ashley. So he did. But Ashley? She never once said sorry to me, not for the harassment, not for the fake emergency, not for anything. Then came her wedding. She was marrying her boyfriend Steven, and she straight up told Anthony I wasn't invited. Said he could come alone and maybe meet some of her single friends there. Anthony shut that down immediately. He told her he wouldn't go unless I was included, and in the end, she had no choice but to put me on the guest list. For the wedding, I wore this beautiful, long, blush pink dress that Anthony and I had picked out together. It was a fancy event, and we wanted to dress up nice. Anthony told me I looked stunning, and a few other guests, Donald included, complimented me too. But of course, Ashley had a meltdown later. She cornered both of us, yelling that I'd tried to steal the spotlight and ruined her wedding by showing up in that dress. Never mind the fact that other women were also wearing floor-length gowns. She accused me of trying to grab all the male attention on purpose. Anthony tried to calm her down and explained that wasn't what we intended at all, but she wouldn't hear it. After that day, her hostility toward me only got worse. Over time, both Mill and Sil joined in with their own brand of cruelty. They'd make fun of how I looked, call me names, once even calling me a fat pig when I gained a bit of weight. They mocked my background, insulted my family in front of others, and just never let up, no matter how polite I tried to be. Eventually, after 4 years of this kind of treatment, I hit my breaking point. I realized their nastiness was wearing down my self-esteem, and I couldn't keep pretending it didn't bother me. So I sat Anthony down for a long talk and told him things had to change. From that point on, I stopped attending his family dinners and events. I also quit responding to Mill and Sil's messages. I started treating them with the same cold distance they had shown me for years. And honestly, my mental health improved so much after that. Anthony understood and supported me in this decision, even though Mill tried to guilt him by saying I was being disrespectful and not wife material because I wouldn't visit them anymore. But despite all their opinions, Anthony proposed to me last year. That day was pure magic. He'd planned it all out and was visibly nervous when he asked the big question. I didn't even hesitate. I said yes without a doubt in my mind. When Anthony shared the news with his parents, his dad congratulated us. His mom, on the other hand, gave a half-hearted response and warned him to be sure about his decision, or else he might regret it. Anthony immediately told her to stop being rude since she was on speakerphone. That's when she reluctantly said congratulations to me as well. I guess she realized she couldn't keep me out of her son's life anymore. Ashley's reaction, though, was on another level. She told Anthony he needed to get a prenup because poor people like me apparently only marry to drain others dry. It was offensive, and it shocked both of us. Anthony stood his ground and told her flat out that if she couldn't accept our relationship, she didn't have to come to the wedding. They argued more, and at one point, she called me a bloodthirsty gold digger. Just awful stuff. But then, 2 days later, she sent me a text apologizing for everything. I figured maybe she had a chat with Mill and realized she couldn't break us up no matter how hard she tried. I told Anthony that if signing a prenup would make everyone feel more comfortable, I was open to it. I wasn't marrying him for money, I was marrying him because he had always been kind to me and made me feel supported, which was all I ever wanted. I had a solid job and was content with my own life. I didn't need anything more than his love and honesty. But Anthony looked me in the eye and said he knew I had a good heart and that he would never ask me to sign a prenup. As the wedding drew near, I really wanted to look and feel my best. So I started working out regularly and got into a good fitness routine. Sometimes I'd post post-gym selfies on my social media, just normal pictures, nothing revealing or inappropriate. Still, one weekend after visiting his family, Anthony came home and told me that Ashley and his mom had accused me of cheating. They said the gym selfies were my way of attracting attention from other men. Anthony defended me, said he had no issue with my posts. But then Ashley told him something ridiculous, she said. This is how women start to cheat on their partners. That planted a seed of doubt in him. He asked me directly if I was being unfaithful. I was stunned. I couldn't believe he even asked. I looked him right in the eye and told him, absolutely not. I was hurt that he would even think that. Anthony started apologizing right away, telling me how his mom and sister had gotten into his head. He swore up and down that if it weren't for them, he never would have doubted me in the first place. And honestly, I believed him. For context, my social media account is private, and I actually have more women following me than men, so to this day, I can't wrap my head around why Mill and Ashley would even suggest something like that to Anthony in the first place. Then came the wedding drama because, of course, they couldn't just let us be happy. Ashley kept pestering Anthony about wanting to be one of my bridesmaids. I straight up said no. That didn't sit well with her, so Mill jumped in. She called me, scolding me for excluding Ashley and warning me that it would look bad to the rest of the family. I reminded her that Ashley hadn't included me in her wedding either, but Mill brushed it off. She told me Ashley was going to be my sister-in-law and that I had to include her, otherwise, she'd refuse to pay for our wedding. That conversation led to a full-blown fight between Anthony and me, though not against each other. I told him everything, and he turned to his dad, Donald, who made it crystal clear. It was his money, not Mill's, and she didn't get a say in anything. I could only imagine Mill's face when she realized her little power play had totally backfired. After that, our wedding went ahead without any more interference from Ashley or Mill. Anthony and I got married, and life felt stable, peaceful, even. I really thought things had finally smoothed out between us. But then something happened that made me question everything all over again. 3 months ago, I found out I was pregnant, with twins. Anthony was just as shocked and thrilled as I was. We'd been trying since we got married, so learning that we were expecting not just one but two babies felt like winning the lottery. Anthony got so excited he wanted to host a family gathering just to announce the pregnancy. I was hesitant and would have preferred something more low-key, but I understood his joy and agreed. At the party, when we shared the news, most of the family rushed over with hugs and congratulations. But Mill and Ashley? They looked like I'd just announced something horrible. Their eyes practically burned holes in me. For some background, Ashley got married before we did and had been trying for a baby ever since. According to Anthony, she's infertile and has had a long, heartbreaking struggle with it. She and Stephen have tried just about everything, but nothing's worked. Anthony, Donald, and even Stephen have tried encouraging her to consider adoption, but she always shuts it down, saying she doesn't want to raise a child from the streets. So yeah, I figured she wouldn't take our pregnancy news well. One of the reasons I didn't want to announce it at a party in the first place was because, despite all our issues, I truly felt for her as a woman. I never wanted to rub salt in her wounds. Sure enough, while Anthony's relatives started chatting about baby showers and gender reveals, Ashley suddenly burst into tears and locked herself in the bathroom. The mood in the room instantly dropped. Anthony and Mill stood outside the door for half an hour, pleading with her to come out. Eventually, she emerged with red, swollen eyes. She looked me dead in the face and said I should have told her privately before announcing something so painful for her to hear in front of everyone. I tried to explain that it was never my intention to hurt her, but she wasn't interested in hearing it. She just turned and walked out with Stephen. Later, Mill cornered me to scold me, saying I was selfish and always made everything about myself. After the party, Anthony apologized and told me he'd talked to both his mom and Ashley. He assured me that the announcement had been his idea and that he had no clue it would upset his sister so much. I appreciated that he stood up for me. Still, I couldn't help but feel a little guilty. As much as I disliked Ashley at times, I couldn't ignore how painful infertility must be for her. The following weekend, Anthony went to his parents' house for dinner while I stayed home. I didn't want to be involved in more family drama. When he got back, he looked thoughtful. He told me he'd ended up apologizing to Ashley because she'd opened up about how deeply this journey had hurt her, how many medical tests she'd endured, how many sleepless nights she'd cried through. Hearing all of that, I felt something shift in me. No matter how complicated things were between us, Ashley was still family. And under all the resentment and conflict, there was clearly a woman carrying a lot of pain. Anthony suggested I reach out to her, and I agreed. I messaged Ashley and apologized for not giving her a heads up before the announcement. I told her that I wanted to make peace before the twins arrived, that it was time to start fresh. To my surprise, she responded with warmth. She thanked me for reaching out and admitted that she also played a part in how strained things had gotten between us. She said she was genuinely happy for my pregnancy and wanted to move forward together as family. She even offered to throw me a baby shower when the time came. Told me she'd never had the chance to do something like that for anyone and would love to plan one for me. I accepted the offer, feeling cautiously optimistic. Over the next few months leading up to the shower, I started noticing something unexpected. Both Ashley and my mother-in-law were being nice. Like, genuinely kind. Sweet, even. Suddenly, Ashley and my mother-in-law were calling me regularly, asking how I was feeling, sending flowers with sweet little cards saying things like, "Hope Mama Bear is feeling okay," or "We can't wait to meet the twins." I won't lie, it caught me off guard. After everything we'd been through, their sudden warmth felt strange, unsettling even. Still, I tried to look at the bright side. Maybe they were genuinely trying to change, trying to build bridges before the twins arrived. I never imagined there could be anything more to it than that. I kept telling myself they were making an effort, and I wanted to believe it. Anthony was still doing his regular family dinners on weekends, and everything on the surface seemed fine. Then came the baby shower. And to my surprise, Ashley had actually taken all my suggestions seriously. The event turned out better than I could have hoped. Friends and family gathered, decorations exactly how I pictured them, and this joyful buzz in the air. Even the men were included, which made it feel more like a true celebration. Donald brought a whole load of gifts for the twins, and everyone seemed genuinely happy for us. Ashley played hostess like a pro, polite, attentive, making sure everything flowed smoothly. It was almost too perfect. In the middle of one of the games, I had to sneak off to the bathroom. When I stepped out a few minutes later, I caught the sound of voices coming from the hallway. Low, tense, familiar. I paused, curiosity kicking in, and that's when I realized it was Anthony and my mother-in-law whispering in a heated argument. They hadn't seen me, so I stayed hidden, straining to catch what they were saying. At first, I figured they were just talking about the nursery or maybe arguing over baby names. But then I heard Mill say something that made my stomach drop. She asked Anthony if he'd spoken to me yet about the plan with the twins. Anthony quickly hushed her, telling her to keep her voice down in case someone overheard. But Mill didn't let up. She pressed him, saying time was running out and he had to have the conversation before the twins were born. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to hand one of the babies over to Ashley in time for her 27th birthday. I froze. She wasn't joking. She told him he had already agreed to Ashley's demand, and there was no backing out now. That Ashley had been waiting for this, looking forward to it. I stood there in the hallway, heart pounding, every fiber of my body trembling. My ears rang, but their voices cut through like ice. They were planning to give one of our babies away. As a gift. To Ashley. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My legs went numb, my mind raced, and a wave of betrayal crashed over me like I'd never known before. These were my children. My twins. Not something to be handed over like a present. And Anthony, my husband, the man I trusted with my heart and my future, was in on it. I waited until they were done talking. Then I stepped out of the bathroom as if nothing had happened, doing my best to keep my composure around the guests. But inside, I was shaking. I had to get out of the situation, and fast. Since that day, I've been trying to keep up appearances while quietly figuring out how to escape this mess. I'm terrified of what this family is capable of, and now I can't even trust the man I married. Every time I see Anthony, I want to scream, to demand answers. But instead, I pretend everything's fine while I work on my plan to leave. That said, the pregnancy hormones have been hitting hard, and sometimes I question myself. Would I be wrong for walking away without even giving him a chance to explain? Would I be the bad guy for leaving him like that? I know I can raise these twins on my own, I have no doubt about that. But part of me wonders if I owe it to him, as their father, to at least hear him out. Even after what I heard. I reached out to my best friend, someone I've known and trusted for years. She was just as horrified as I was when I told her what I'd overheard. She immediately offered to help, and we've put together a plan. Tonight will be the last night I ever spend in this house with Anthony. Tomorrow, while he's at work, I'll be packing up and moving in with my friend. I won't leave a note. I won't say goodbye. He doesn't deserve either. It's been 2 weeks since I left, and I wanted to give you all an update. As I said, I made the decision to file for divorce after overhearing that horrific conversation between Anthony and his mother. Leaving him was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but deep down I know I made the right choice. With my friend's help, I gathered all my things and left while Anthony was out. Walking out of that door was heartbreaking. I never thought I'd be in this position, pregnant, alone, and filing for divorce. But my babies come first. Always. But at the end of the day, I have to put my safety and my baby's safety first. That's my priority now, above everything else. I've officially filed for divorce, even though Anthony's been reaching out to me constantly. I haven't blocked him. I still want to keep things civil until everything is finalized, for the sake of the legal process. But since he doesn't know I overheard that conversation with his mother, he's been sending me all kinds of texts, accusing me of betrayal, saying I proved his family right all along. I haven't responded to a single one. Not because I don't have anything to say, but because I know how these people operate. No matter what I say, they'll twist my words and gaslight me. Let them think whatever they want for now. The truth will come out during the divorce proceedings. I've already blocked Ashley and Mill. As for Donald, I'll admit, I feel a little guilty ignoring his calls. I don't know if he had any part in their plan, and I don't want to assume the worst, but I also can't afford to take any risks when it comes to my children. The past few days have been a blur of crying and heartbreak. My best friend has barely left my side. She's been my rock, reminding me that I'm not a bad mother for walking away, and that leaving a man like Anthony was the bravest thing I could have done. Knowing I'll be raising the twins on my own, I've started making plans to get back on my feet. I'm going to return to work as soon as I'm able. Thankfully, my best friend works from home and has offered to watch the twins while I transition back into the workforce. Of course, I insisted on paying her. Watching two babies isn't easy, and I'd never want to take advantage of her kindness. It's not the most secure setup, but it's what I have for now. I wish I had supportive parents or family of my own to lean on during this time, but unfortunately, that's not the case. My friend's only able to help until my divorce is finalized. After that, with the child support I'll be receiving from Anthony, I plan to hire a full-time nanny. It won't be easy, but I'm determined to give my kids a life filled with love, stability, and peace, everything I never had growing up. And honestly, I'm so grateful for the support I've received from my friend, from a few good people around me, and from all of you. This has been the hardest season of my life, but I don't feel completely alone anymore. Hi everyone. It's been 6 months since my last update, and a lot has happened since then. First things first, I gave birth. I am now the proud mom of 2 beautiful boys, Andrew and Joshua. I was beyond nervous going into labor, but the moment I held them in my arms, all of that fear disappeared. They are my world. And I am so glad I got them away from that toxic family. The divorce is final now. During the proceedings, Anthony finally learned the real reason I left, and it hit him like a brick. He was stunned that I'd found out about the plan to give away one of our twins. He tried to apologize, to explain, telling me he was pressured, cornered, and manipulated by his family. He said he never truly meant to go through with it. But to me, that just made it worse. If he knew it was wrong and still went along with it, that just shows me how weak he really is. I was already heartbroken, but seeing how easily he caved under his family's influence made me realize that I never really knew the man I married. As for Donald, it came out that he did know. He had tried to talk some sense into Mill and Ashley, but clearly, he didn't do enough. I couldn't believe it. I was disgusted all over again. During one of the court sessions, Mill and Ashley actually showed up, screaming, crying, accusing me of stealing the twins from them. They said I was selfish, that I was a terrible mother who robbed them of a future they had planned for my children. It was such a public scene that security had to physically remove them from the courthouse. Honestly, I was glad they embarrassed themselves. That incident helped me secure a restraining order against both of them. Anthony still tries to stay in touch, asking to talk or meet up and rebuild what we had. But that bridge is burned. I could never trust him again, not with my heart and definitely not with my children. With my best friend's support and a few others who've stood by me, I've managed to survive single motherhood these past few months. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth every ounce of strength I've had to summon. Recently, I made a huge decision. I'm moving out of the city. I want a clean slate, far away from all the manipulation, gaslighting, and dysfunction. As long as we're in the same town, I'll always worry that Anthony's family might try to worm their way back into our lives. I won't give them that chance. With full custody of Andrew and Joshua, I can choose where we go and what kind of life we live. And I plan to build a future that's safe, joyful, and full of love, just the 3 of us. This will be my final update. From here on out, I'm focusing entirely on my boys and our new life. Thank you, truly, to everyone who helped me find the courage to walk away. We're going to be okay. Actually, better than okay. We're going to thrive.